staff at the Four Seasons Resort Nevis. They were named the best luxury hotel in the Caribbean by Luxury Travel Advisor in their 2023 Awards of Excellence. I think this speaks wonders to the quality of what we continue to offer in Nevis in terms of our hospitality sector. Congratulations also to my alma mater, the Ivor Walters Primary School, for winning the Republic Bank 5 for Fun Cricket Festival at Warner Park on the 11th of July. This was a tournament held among all of the primary schools in the Federation. And interestingly, Ivor Walters Primary met the Joyston Libert Primary, from Gingerland in the finals and was victorious. So that the two schools that met in the finals were both from Nevis. I congratulate as well 19-year-old Jaden Carmichael. He has been drafted by the Trinbago Knight Riders for the upcoming CPL tournament. And we say congratulations to him. And while I'm in a congratulatory mood, let me also congratulate a school from my constituency. I'm proud to say the Elizabeth Pemberton Primary School that won the Mr. and Miss Talented Youth pageant last evening. Culturama is, of course, in full swing, and we welcome home all of those who have come from abroad to be with us. We welcome, of course, our brothers and sisters from St. Kitts, who we know will be over in large numbers, and we wish everyone a wonderful Culturama season. Please be safe and party responsibly. Let me now go to some specific updates, and I did promise that I would try to be brief, and so I will try to get through them as quickly as I can. Public Works Department, we are mindful of the ongoing works of the Bath Village Main Road reconstruction project, and for the past few weeks, the Public Works team has been working on reconstructing sections of the side streets at the old Maud Smith Preschool and the side street adjacent to the Alberta Payne Community Center. A block perimeter wall, concrete driveway, concrete stairways, and a dry stone wall have been constructed at the Alberta Payne Community Center. The construction of a concrete sidewalk along with a concrete pull-off parking area in front and adjacent to the community center is now underway. We have committed to undertake these ancillary features of the road construction to bring a level of completeness to the roadworks at that location. The last section of the main Bath Road has been from the Thompsons to Mr. Dick. That has been excavated and is being based off in preparation installation of the concrete curbs. Nevlec has undertaken some electrical and pole and line relocation along the stretch. There's some more work to be done, but we are getting it done. In Butler's Village, our second major road project that's going on, the work is ongoing at the Upper Village Road, approximately 210 feet of concrete U-drain with an extended back wall have been constructed at that location, and the Upper Village Road has been excavated and base material has been placed. So those two major projects that have been ongoing continue. They are now winding down, but we have promised the people of Butlers and Bath that they will have first-class infrastructure when we're finished. So we're upgrading the water, electricity, and roads at the same time, putting in sidewalks, curbs, drainage, and doing the entire project so that the people in our villages can be more comfortable, our homeowners can have enhanced property values, and this is what we try to do when we do construction in the communities, that we leave them much better off than we met them. A repair and maintenance technician visited the island from the 12th to the 14th of July, and he completed calibration and maintenance work on our asphalt plant at New River. I had reported to the press that we had had difficulty with our asphalt plant. We had in fact had a fire that had created some damage. Well, I'm happy to now report that all of that has been resolved. We've had a technician come in who spent a few days with us from the 12th to 14th July, and he did all the maintenance and calibration. The bitumen heating tank, which had sustained that damage in the fire, as I had reported, has been fully restored to pre-fire functionality. The complete asphalt production plant then is back in full operation. Let me also advise that we have, through our buildings division in the ministry and department, Public Works, we have completed a retrofitting of a building to house the Charlestown Police Station, and have also completed a retrofitting of spaces in the Solomon Arcade to house the Land Registry. In fact, I invite members of the media and the public to go and see the new Land Registry. I was afforded the opportunity about a week or two ago to tour, along with the Minister of Justice and Attorney General, the Honorable Garth Wilkin, that facility. And we thought it was important to go because obviously it is a project, federal project, in the sense that they're responsible for the Ministry of Justice and the court system, but it was instructive that we, as the NIA, would have assisted in ensuring that the renovations were done. And the space is a fantastic space. It now moves the land registry from where it used to be, which was at the High Court Registry, where, of course, it was quite cramped. And so we're delighted that that has happened, and that is, again, a step forward in terms of creating a better environment for persons, land titles, those who have interaction with the registry. The land registry will now have a much better environment. I think the lawyers are all very grateful for that, and the general public as well. And so we are happy about that. Now, I mentioned the Charleston Police Station. I think that's important. I want to thank the federal government, because after quite some time of the Charleston Police Station requiring some attention to the physical plant there, we have now come up with a plan, and as part of that, we have retrofitted a building in Charleston for the police to move to while the Charleston Police Station is being renovated. And so we'll hear more on that as that goes, but I think it is good news for the police and a worthwhile investment in the security apparatus here on the island of Nevis. On the issue of water, let me just say quickly that the ministry has engaged the services of Mr. Skip Hoag, H-O-A-G, and he comes from an entity called Bear Rock Consulting, B-E-A-R, Bear Rock Consulting, and that is an entity in the U.S. He is currently on island to carry out surveys and mapping in our quest to find additional water. This includes a review of the available geophysical, hydrological, and geological data. It is hoped that at the end of this exercise, we will be in a position to determine the location of possible drill sites. Areas identified are Stony Hill, Dason's Estate, Brazier's Estate, Hicks Estate, Hog Valley, and Morgan Estate. While we're here, I believe that there's also an important ceremony that is happening. I couldn't attend because, of course, I had to be here with you, but the Global Support Development and the MV Dawn, a vessel, is currently in the Federation on a familiarization visit. They provide after-disaster assistance throughout the region. The vessel will be docked at Long Point from Sunday the 30th of July to Tuesday the 1st of August. During the time here in Nevis, the crew will be conducting coastal seabed mapping exercises, so that in the event that they're required after disaster strike, they already know when to dock, where to dock, etc. Now, this is one of those things where we welcome them but hope we won't need them. But it is one of the preparatory steps that we must take, as we know that we live in a disaster-prone area. And so the MV Dawn is here. They had an official ceremony, as I said. Perhaps that is still ongoing, but I wasn't able to make it, and my colleagues, I believe, are representing the NIA at that ceremony. Let me move quickly, ladies and gentlemen, to the Ministry of Health, and to make the announcement that the Medical University of the Americas and the Nevis Island Administration, who jointly have had in place a program to offer 2 scholarships each year to deserving students who are studying in areas that are needed, priority areas for the government of Nevis. And they have had this year, for their 2023-2024 applications, they had 5 completed applications. Ms. Shanae Liebert and Ms. Raquel Burke emerged as the top 2 candidates. Ms. Liebert will be pursuing an undergrad degree in nutrition and dietetics at the Western Illinois University, United States, while Ms. Burke will be pursuing a degree in counseling at the Northern Caribbean University in Jamaica. We wish both awardees every success in their academic pursuits, and we say to those who were not successful that they should continue to try. There are only 2 scholarships, and there is a very intense interview process that is done. I want to be clear that this is done outside of the political directorate of government, and that's important that people understand that this is a panel that's put together. They review the applications. They then make their recommendations based on the applicants, and on this occasion, Ms. Liebert and Ms. Burke emerge as the winners of the MUA scholarship. So I would like to congratulate them both. This is one of the best scholarships that is on offer because it pays for everything. And some years, unfortunately, we don't have many applicants at all. In fact, I believe there was one year when the only 2 people applied got it, because there were only 2 who applied. And, you know, sometimes I bemoan the fact that our young people complain and say things aren't available for them. But when we have excellent opportunities like these, they don't look over their shoulder. You can't sit back, you can't sit at home, you can't ignore and expect that something is going to fall in your laps. That's not the way the world works. And here we have these types of opportunities. Every year, this scholarship is offered to 2 persons, every year. And it is an excellent scholarship because they pay for everything. And still, we have a difficulty with our young people not applying. I really get tired of people telling me they don't know. I didn't hear nothing. I didn't know. I get tired of it. In this day of communication and interaction and social media, there is no reason not to know. So, I continue to tell our people, do the necessary things to benefit from what's available. Don't tell me nothing is happening and nothing is available when you are not stepping up. It is important. And I continue to ask our people to be responsible in that regard. So congratulations to those who did take the time to fill out the applications and went through the process. And of those 5, Ms. Shanai Libert and Ms. Raquel Burke have emerged, and we say congratulations to them and their family. They now have the opportunity to go off to study and to put themselves in a position to better themselves and their families. And the best part about scholarships is they come back with their degree and no student loan to pay. And that is why I always encourage our people. A lot of our people go away to study, and they have huge student loans. So they come back on the first 10, 15 years of their working life. They have to pay Development Bank. They have to pay National Bank. They have to pay that student loan. How much better would it be if you came back and for your first 15 years, you put your money in the bank, or you bought a piece of land, you invested in a home. Why? Because you don't have that burden of a student loan. And I tell people all the time, these scholarships are going begging. They're going begging. I don't know what else I can tell our youth here in Nevis to take advantage of them. Incidentally and anecdotally, I met a lady 2 weeks ago who said that she wanted to express her thanks to me. And I said, why? And she said because her child was now enrolled and studying in Morocco at a university there. And I'm sure members of the press here would have heard me year after year lament and cry that we have all these scholarships. In fact, when I was foreign minister, we secured 20 scholarships to Morocco, but nobody would apply. So this lady was quite happy that her daughter was there and doing well. And so I encourage others, please take advantage of these opportunities. The Ministry of Health, Gender Affairs, and Social Empowerment will present the Nevis CBR advocates with a donation of $5,000, and this will go towards the staging of the first ever Empowerment Summer Camp for persons with disabilities in Nevis. This, I think, is a very significant development. The camp is hosted in partnership with the Department of Gender Affairs and is slated for August 14th to 25th at the Cotton Ground Community Center. The aim of the camp: celebrate and empower our persons with disabilities as we build a more inclusive society, and showcase how a rehabilitation day center would operate, care pooling and respite services for regular caregivers. Initiate a registration process as we build a database of persons who would benefit from the establishment of a rehabilitation daycare center on Nevis. Initiate a registration process for volunteers and facilitators who would help to operate a rehabilitation daycare center, and provide a platform for persons with disabilities to socialize and receive further detailed assessment and specific training opportunities for skill development. The idea really is for us to be a more inclusive society and to ensure that persons with disabilities are afforded the care and the opportunity that they require. Interested persons are asked to call 765-5224 or 763-6589. Let me say that again, 765-5224 or 763-6589 for more information on registering or volunteering. So if you're out there listening, if you or your family member has some kind of disability, please pay attention to this. But even if you don't, please volunteer, come forward. we are trying to be a more inclusive society, and I think that it's important that all of our people are treated with respect. Whilst I'm talking about health, let me continue to encourage those who have not yet taken advantage of the opportunity. I did announce that we now had mammogram services available at the Alexandra Hospital. The government has invested significantly in state-of-the-art equipment there, and in order to assist in screening, we are offering free mammogram services until the end of this year. And so we are now approaching, tomorrow I believe is the 1st of August. We have August, September, October, November, December. So we have, what, 5 months left? Where we are hopeful that the women in Nevis will take advantage of that opportunity to know your status. So that service is free. Please go, get referred by your doctor, and get your mammogram services done. As I mentioned, that tomorrow is the 1st of August. Tomorrow is also a solemn time here on the island and in the wider Federation. It marks the anniversary of the sinking of the MV Christina. And we all know that that was the largest single tragedy that befell us in modern times here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Hundreds of persons perished on that inter-island ferry. That being the case, tomorrow morning we will have our usual remembrance service, which we seek to do every year at the hour that the Christina would have sunk, and that will be done there at the Hunkins Drive, right by the Christina Memorial that was erected some years ago. And so we invite members of the public to come as we pay our respects and we remember those who we lost in that tragedy somewhat 50 plus years ago now. It was in 1970, so this year would mark 53 years, if my math is correct, that the Christina sank. A lot of families were traumatized. A lot of families lost parents. Many families lost multiple members of their families. We know it was a holiday weekend, and the boat, we're told, was overcrowded as they were coming from St. Kitts to Nevis. People were coming home, and the island of Nevis in particular, but also the island of St. Kitts, we lost a significant number of people to the sea that day. And I believe that while some has been said about Christina, the whole story is yet to be told in terms of the social trauma that it created. We have to reflect, ladies and gentlemen, that in those days we didn't have the counseling services and the psychiatric services that are available today. So imagine you woke up one day and mommy, daddy, uncle, and aunt, all of them perished. Some families were torn asunder because children were left to be sent to various family members to be raised. One child, one place, one child, another place, etc. I know of one friend of mine in Brownhill who was a survivor, and he has never in 53 years gone back to St. Kitts or gone back on a boat. Refuses to leave. There's some people who, since that time, have not eaten fish. There's some people who, since that time, have refused to go to the sea. And in fact, some say that that is one of the reasons why a lot of Nevisians can't swim, because we're not minded to go to the ocean. That, to my mind, is a collective trauma that we still have from the Christina disaster. And so it is hopeful, my hope, that in time we will be able to deal with this tragedy, perhaps in a better way. But for now, we pay our respects each year, and we will do so tomorrow morning, and hope that members of the public will come out at the Hunkins Drive, where we hope to have this event. The Department of Community Development asked me to report to you that it has held its summer camp from July 10th, Monday, July 10th to Friday, July 21st. And this theme was Refresh, Re-energize, and Refocus. They had a host of activities: arts and craft, puppet show, karaoke, character building sessions, conflict resolution, public speaking and health, and a lot more. As a result of the Ministry of Tourism support, there were 2 sessions, including one called Destination Nevis, intending to foster a sense of pride and appreciation for Nevis and to educate our children about what the island has to offer, and another called Careers in Tourism, which showed them the tourism industry in its very diverse and various employment fields. The sessions all culminated with a field trip to the Indian Castle Fruit Orchard on Wednesday, July 12th. And for members of the media here who have not yet gone, I continue to encourage you, please, you must see the Indian Castle Fruit Orchard. a brainchild of the Honorable Alexis Jeffers, but which now is there as a testimony to our thrust in terms of food security on the island of Nevis. They also went to a tour at the Nevision Heritage Village, and again, if you haven't gone there, you should. And there, the young people were exposed to various cooking demonstrations and a treasure hunt. The children were taught how to make various traditional foods, including saltfish, cornmeal and mackerel, and tamarind jam. They also received traditional hot bread and cheese. That is a tradition there now at the Heritage Village. Other activities include a movie day, a fun day, Charleston Villa grounds, included bouncing castle, obstacle course, cricket, other games, and of course we would have had a closing ceremony on the 21st of July. We would like to thank the Ministry of Community Development, Social Development. Also, they want to thank Best Buy Supermarket for its contribution to the closing ceremony, and the Department of Education, Department of Sports, Department of Agriculture, Health Promotion Unit, and of course the Ministry of Tourism. They all collaborated in delivering a wonderful camp for our children over the period Monday, July 10th to Friday, July 21st, 2023. Let me just give a quick update on the park at Pinnes. As we all know, the Malcolm Gishard Recreational Park was inaugurated just over a year ago. It has really become, in a short space of time, part of the socioeconomic fabric of the island of Nevis. Weddings, receptions, you name it. It's all happening there. It's an area that I think is living up to what we wanted to create there, a space for our people to enjoy. And many, including visitors, including our brothers and sisters from St. Kitts, have enjoyed that park. We have a modern facility there. Well, what we're now doing is what we're calling the second phase of that, which is now the area by the beach bars and by the ocean front, so to speak. We're putting in now proper parking, proper sewage facilities, etc. And so I am pleased to announce that the work is progressing smoothly. The project began in December 2022. It's expected to be completed by next August. The project involves the upgrade of the area immediately west of the MGR Park, surrounding the existing restaurants. Flood control work, because those who know that area know that it's prone to flooding. So we're doing a lot of engineering work in terms of flood control. That includes the construction of a levee along the northern banks of Shallow Gut, the building of drains, and the diversion of surface runoff into seasonal ponds at the MGR Park. Other works under progress include the construction of bathroom facilities, a road network, a sewage treatment, parking lots, street lighting, and greater security. So we are putting in place an entire environment there, creating, if you will, an ecosystem at Pinnes for entertainment, for leisure, for families. And we have the bars and the restaurants there already. We're now going to build around to have the proper infrastructure in place. One of the complaints we've had, of course, is that some of the bars and restaurants say that beach users come and use the bathrooms. So we're putting in place bathrooms now for beach users, showers, and greater security. We're going to be using greater CCTV coverage, etc., to ensure that we have the safest possible environment for persons to go and enjoy. My hope would be that in time we will see families going to the Pinnes Park, relaxing, picnicking, etc., going down to the beach, getting something to eat, strolling around, that it becomes an environment for that. And for the young people who are going on dates and that kind of thing, you know, that's a beautiful environment for them, and that's what we hope to do. So we want to thank again the government and people of the Republic of China, Taiwan. They have funded this project, and we hope to have the last tranche of funds for this project very shortly. Let me also put in a plug for the Taiwan Expo. That starts this Wednesday, which is the 2nd of August, from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. It continues on Thursday, 12 p.m. to 8 p.m., Friday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., and Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. It will feature 26 Taiwanese suppliers. You can taste one of my favorites, Taiwan bubble tea, and you also will experience Taiwan night markets through fun games, virtual reality experiences, and Taiwanese movie night. The idea really is, as we build out the relationship between Taiwan and St. Kitts and Nevis, that we have excellent government-to-government relationships, but we are saying we need more business relationships. Taiwan, as we know, is a significant manufacturer. They are the world's leaders, for example, in microchip production. They create quite a lot of products, particularly electronics and the like, and we feel that it would be good to develop trade-in relations with Taiwan for companies here to order products from Taiwan and for us to make our products. Hot sauce, for example, is very popular in Taiwan, and we know St. Kitts Nevis has some of the best hot sauce. What we need is the linkages, the connections to penetrate that market and ensure that our people can benefit. And so they're bringing their suppliers here so that those who want heavy equipment, those who want electronics, those who want various things can interact with them. And we invite one and all to come out starting this Wednesday the 2nd, to come out and be a part of that Taiwan Expo. The Ministry of Tourism has asked that I thank everyone who responded in such overwhelming numbers to the St. Kitts and Nevis Restaurant Week. It was held from the 13th to the 23rd of July. They highlighted, of course, pineapple, and 20 restaurants and eateries from Nevis and almost 50 across the Federation would have participated in Restaurant Week. The highlight in Nevis was a tasting showcase held at the MGR Park on Sunday the 16th, where 30 exhibitors showcased a variety of pineapple-based dishes and beverages. The overall goal of Restaurant Week really is to encourage our people to dine out more, to patronize our restaurants more, and to ensure that our local restaurant sector gets a boost, particularly in what we are calling the off-season. So that was a success, and we want to thank all and look forward for their continued support next year. The Nevis Mango Festival, we also think was a resounding success. That was held from Friday, June 30th to Sunday, July 2nd. They had the opening ceremony. They had an open day at Indian Castle that included mango eating and mango stoning competition. They had an opportunity to go around the island to the small local eateries, participate in a culinary tour. And then on Sunday the 2nd, all roads led to the MGR Park for the culmination of Mango Festival, an event dubbed For the Love of Mangoes, where more than 20 chefs would have offered mango-based samples. Now, I want to take this opportunity to say that the marketing for this event clearly was a resounding success, because they prepared for, they told me about 1,500 people and had almost double that number who showed up. We had, as a result, some serious logistical challenges, and the Nevis Tourism Authority is aware that that unprecedented turnout, which while it was demonstrative of the success of the marketing, clearly once you've marketed the event, you now need to deliver on the quality of the event, and because of the numbers of people, they were simply overwhelmed. We have learned from those challenges. We want to apologize, and I do so on behalf of the Ministry of Tourism to the patrons who would have not had the best experience. Well, some of them. Those who arrived early had an excellent experience. Those who arrived late had a difficulty where food had run out and the like. So we want to apologize to them. We have had a post-mortem. The analysis has been done, and we anticipate during the 10th anniversary of this festival next year, bigger and better, where we would have taken the lessons learned and proceeded to do a much better job next year. So that is our aim, and we, of course, would encourage you to continue to support the Mango Festival as we try to make it the region's premier food festival. I have some calendar events for tourism and the Fruit Festival, which will be taking place on August 4th, but I believe that those are all over the media anyway. And so all I will do is encourage members of the media to help us promote Culturama, and to encourage members of the public to come out in their numbers and support the various events. We have a packed calendar, and we are hopeful that everyone can come out and support. We know that many families are here having their family reunions, and we ask, of course, that they also prepare to come back next year when we have the 50th anniversary of Culturama and our homecoming celebration, formal homecoming that we do next year as well. Thank you, members of the press. I'll take any questions you may have now.
Good morning.
Good
Elke
morning.
Hewlett, Department of Information. I know recently you returned from London, and while on private business, you were asked, I think Premier Drew said, to engage with
Prime
officials on
Minister
the
Drew.
engage with Prime Minister Drew on matters of state for St. Kitts and Nevis. If you could give us some information on those meetings. Also, what is the current situation with water on the island? I know somebody's here to look into drilling, but how does it stand presently? And also, will events organized by the NIA through the Culturama Committee be 420 friendly and have private promoters applied to have designated smoking areas at their events? Thanks.
So thank you very much, Ms. Hewlett, for the question. You are correct. I have only recently returned from the UK, where I went on private business. I don't think that there's a secret, because it's been all over the media, that the people of Dominica, Commonwealth of Dominica, our OECS brothers and sisters, have been now slapped with visa requirements to enter the United Kingdom. All of us are accustomed to traveling to the United Kingdom simply by showing our passport. Once you can buy the ticket, you go. And this development, therefore, came as some surprise to many of us. Dominica is our sister country in the OECS. Dominica operates a citizenship by investment program, just as we do. And there was naturally some concern that the reasons expressed for the imposition of visa requirements on Dominica, that might become a contagion where other countries in the OECS, St. Kitts Nevis, Grenada, St. Lucia, Antigua and Barbuda, that they too would be subject to some form of action. Now, I hasten to say that I am not aware. In fact, I have been told that there has been no contact by the UK government suggesting any difficulties at this point. But you know, the old people have a saying, when your neighbor's house is on fire with your own. And so the fact that I was in the UK on personal business, the Prime Minister did ask me to have a meeting there, which I did. So I would have had an opportunity to meet in the UK with some Conservative members of Parliament, and would have discussed this very issue and other issues as to how we can strengthen the relationship between the United Kingdom and St. Kitts and Nevis. The Prime Minister has extended an invitation to those individuals to visit St. Kitts and Nevis formally. They will be here, I believe it's the 26th of August, for about a week, and they will see both islands. They will be hosted in Nevis by the NIA, and also be hosted in St. Kitts by the federal government. And basically what we're trying to do is to build a network of communication and to build out a framework to allow dialogue to happen between St. Kitts and Nevis and the UK. In the event that there are any issues, we can discuss them and resolve them before we get to the stage where Dominica has got, where this imposition has been made on the people of Dominica. I cannot speculate as to what the underlying reasons are for that action against Dominica, but as I said, we are optimistic that in relation to St. Kitts and Nevis, in relation to our dialogue with the UK, in relation to the changes that we continue to make to our citizenship by investment program to satisfy the concerns of our partners globally, that we will stave off and prevent any actions being taken against our program, which naturally would be unhelpful. And so I think the meetings went well. I should say that the Prime Minister would have already reported publicly that I filed a report with him, fulsome report, letting him know what happened. That report would have also gone to the Foreign Minister, Dr. Denzel Douglas, so that they are aware of the outcomes of that meeting and the suggested way forward flowing from that meeting. I think that beyond that, it is unprecedented. I don't know that any leader of the opposition has ever been asked by a government to have any meeting on their behalf. But I think it is indicative of the relationship that we're trying to develop. And I recognize that there's been a lot of negativity because our people are accustomed to all the politicians cussing each other all day, every day. Even when you do good, you cuss and say you should have done better. So it is customary, and I believe that this is a new thing that we're trying to do in terms of assisting where possible, working together where possible, and always having at the forefront of our minds what is in the best interest of St. Kitts and Nevis. And so, for example, it would have been quite customary in the past for if there's a threat to our CBI program for the opposition to jump up and start to say, hip hip hooray, Christmas come early, the CBI program collapsing, and look what they do, look what they do. And that would be the approach that we would have taken. The difficulty with that is, of course, if the CBI program collapses, it hurts everybody in the country. And it hurts in the island of Nevis as well. Notwithstanding, we continue to agitate, saying we need a clear formula for our fair share of the proceeds in Nevis. The truth is, it will hurt everybody in the country. And so there is no distance between the Prime Minister and I in relation to this. I believe that people of goodwill who are elected by the public to serve not themselves but the public should be interested, where possible, to work together for the benefit of the public. And I believe that these parliamentarians in the UK have been very impressed, because the idea that the Prime Minister could ask the leader of the opposition to meet with them and have confidence that the discussion is going to be faithfully reported back, and that there will be opportunities for dialogue and engagement and ideas that flows from that. I believe that that is even new to the UK, as old a democracy as they are, that this is being done. And so they were very impressed. We had a good meeting, and I believe that we know certainly that the government would have a game plan going forward on behalf of all of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, myself included, as a citizen of this great country. So that was the meeting, Ms. Hewlett, that occurred, and I was quite happy to be of assistance. Water on Nevis, we would have reported, of course, that Mr. Skip Hogue is now here. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a water problem on the island, and it makes no sense trying to sugarcoat it. Our brothers and sisters in St. Kitts have had that problem now for a far longer period, and I believe that there's some drilling now happening in Keon as they try to alleviate that problem. We in Nevis have invested considerable sums in water over the years. We had a CDB project here for water storage and water distribution across the island. If you travel the length and breadth of Nevis, you see brand new water storage tanks all across the island. And that massive project, we continue that project because when we do village roads, as I mentioned, in Butler's, Bath, etc., we upgrade the water infrastructure. But of course, being able to distribute water better, being able to have greater water storage, doesn't solve the fundamental underlying problem of do you have enough water? And that continues to bedevil us. Our experts are telling us that our consumption levels are and remain extremely high. Water is very cheap, and as a result, persons tend to abuse that. In St. Kitts, it's cheap in Nevis, it's even cheaper in St. Kitts. In fact, St. Kitts has some of the cheapest water in the Caribbean. I think in St. Kitts you're paying $7.20 for 1,000 gallons of water. In Nevis we pay $13 EC for 1,000 gallons of water. When you reflect, I like to do this, that this bottle of water, if you go to a party, they sell it for $5. It means that by the time you have bought 2 of these or 3 of these, you would have paid the equivalent. In fact, you would have paid more than you pay for 1,000 gallons of water on the island of Nevis. So, the water is cheap, and as a result, I think people abuse it. They have running faucets, toilets, burst pipes, they don't pay any attention, and the water is just wasting away. We also need to do more in terms of water collection so that rainfall is down. We know, the statistics tell us, that as a consequence of our battle with climate change, our rainfall patterns have changed, and that rainfall is down. We therefore need to harvest as much of that rainfall when it comes into the guts and going into the sea, that we need to devise ways. One of those ways, of course, is through our systems at our homes. And so I'm encouraging persons when they build to build some kind of catchment area. We have had some issues because the government housing schemes have not always had assistance as a result of trying to keep the price affordable to our homeowners. But we are now implementing a system where even the tanks, those, what do they call, fiberglass or polyurethane tanks would now be used at our housing developments, because we have to harvest as much water as we can. Water is life, as we say. And so that is critically important. It has also come to my attention that the planning regulations actually require that there be some cistern or catchment area. And I was quite surprised to learn that homeowners in Nevis were putting in the cistern because planning required it, but not connecting it, and not putting in any mechanism for it to be connected. And I just don't understand the wisdom or logic in that. If you're going to build a cistern, then why wouldn't you put the spouting in so that you can get water into that cistern? And why would you not connect the cistern so that whenever the mains go off, the public supplies off, you have water that you can rely on? It seems odd to me, but I'm encouraging people to do the right thing and be responsible in relation to water. So we realize we need more water, Ms. Hewlett, and so the first step in that is to do the mapping that Mr. Hogue is doing. Now, just to say to the public, because the name Skip Hogue is not new to Nevis, he would have done a mapping before. But what we want now is updated information. The technology, they say, is now better. So we've said, come back in and update the information. In fact, just yesterday we were advised that he actually is going to put down stakes as to where we can drill. So that is the level of precision that we're looking for, so that when we drill here, we know we can find water. Because water drilling is quite technical. I'm told that you could have water in an area, but depending on where you drill, you may not hit that water. So he's trying to identify precisely where. And once we get that water, of course, we have to test it. The quality of the water is going to be important. We had a well at Hamilton, for example, which was a high-producing well, but there was too much manganese in it, so we couldn't use it for human consumption. We had to get a filtration plant, treat it, and only then could we use it, because the World Health Organization set certain standards for water that we have to adhere to. So we are well and truly in the teeth of the difficulty. Our aquifers have not been recharging as quickly as we would like. We are extracting water at far too fast a pace. We have had a particularly difficult year this year because one of our main consumers of water is the hotel sector, and the hotel sector has been doing well. In fact, we are now running into August, and hotels like the Four Seasons are still saying they have up to 50% plus occupancy, which is unprecedented. Normally by May, the start of May, the hotels are empty. That has not been the case this year. So we are benefiting economically on the one hand, but obviously the pressure on our water supply continues. We commend our brothers and sisters in St. Kitts. They are addressing the issues with drilling, and we look forward to doing some drilling here. I should reiterate, however, that we have not been asleep on this issue. And I don't want people to feel that it's only now the crisis has come that we are responding. In fact, we had already paid significant sums, millions of dollars, to BEAD to do some drilling for us. They were supposed to drill 4 wells here on the island of Nevis. Well, BEAD got the money and BEAD didn't do the drilling. And so we had to end up in court with them. We are hopeful now that we understand that the federal government is using them, that they will now come to Nevis and do the right thing before we are forced to take enforcement measures against them in the court. So I'm sending from this rostrum a very clear indication to BEAD that we would want them to come to Nevis and to do the job for which they've already given us substantial down payment. Had that drilling occurred, we would not be in this difficulty that we're experiencing now. But unfortunately, they did not carry through, and we are where we are. As a result, we have had some water outages. We recognize that at this time of year with Culturama, it's even more difficult for people, but we're asking you to be patient with us. It is a problem, but we are trying to resolve the problem. And I say to all of us, we need to conserve as much water as we can, and we need to prefer rain. Those two things are very important. Ms. Hewlett, the last thing you asked me was about events being 420 friendly. I believe what you mean is, can people smoke marijuana at the events? Because not everybody might understand what 420 friendly means. And the cabinet has not, so far as I'm aware, been told that any events for Culturama will be 420 friendly. So we are not aware that any applications have been made. The events that are being hosted by the Culturama committee have not, as far as I'm aware, applied for any designated areas for smoking. So in light of the changes that have been made to the law recently, what I would say for those who are intent on smoking, smoke what you need at home and then come and enjoy the festivities. Of course, don't get high and drive, because that is something that we are advocating against. And at this point, the public smoking at these events, I have no indication that there's been any designation. Now, I can't speak because as part of Culturama, there are a number of private events that are happening, so I can't speak to those. Because recall that for the private events, any applications will be made to the relevant ministry on St. Kitts for the necessary permission to operate a designated smoking area. So at this point, as far as I'm aware, we're having a ganja-free Culturama at the events. So we wait and see whether or not that in fact materializes. The day is still young and the week is still young, so I don't know what might happen. And your question might now prompt some people to go and rush in to apply. So I can't say, but at this juncture, I'm not aware that there have been any applications for any designated areas for smoking at this Culturama 49. Any other questions for me?
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm Sean Dixon, St. Kitts News Observer. 2 questions. What efforts is the NIA making to reduce the impact of the cost of living crisis globally on divisions, especially relating to imports that we cannot avoid, and as well as gas and school supplies, and what could be done that it positively impacts the division consumer and buyer? And secondly, what is the current debt status of the NIA and how is the government managing it, and how is it affecting the government's financial flexibility?
Mr. Dixon, you asked some excellent questions. Thank you very much. Cost of living, we have been grappling with that. It's a global issue. It's not just here. Prices have risen across the globe, particularly since post-COVID. We have implemented in Nevis some of the similar policies as in St. Kitts. So for example, you mentioned gas. The excise tax on that has been reduced. As you might have heard in the news, I think it's usually $2 plus per gallon. It's down to, I think, 95 cents or 99 cents per gallon. So it has been reduced dramatically. School supplies, we have removed all the necessary charges on those, people bringing them in for purposes of the new school year. And so we have been trying to respond as best as we can. On the island of Nevis, as you know, part of what we have responded as the NIA is we've increased public servants' salaries by 10% thus far, with an additional 5% promised in January, so that they have more buying power. That's the hope, at least. And so we're trying in various ways to offset the tremendous rise that we're seeing in the cost of living. Mr. Dixon, where people have seen, however, the most of the impact, particularly our people who are lower income earners, has been in food. Everybody has to eat. And that has been a problem because the cost of food across the board has increased. Over a year ago, we would have met with all the supermarket operators on the island of Nevis, and we would have removed all charges on food, duty, everything. We, of course, had removed VAT from food some time ago. But whatever was left, we tried to remove. And I was quite surprised when the supermarket chains told us that notwithstanding the gesture, they did not feel that it would have much of an impact on the cost to the consumer. And the reason they said for that was because the global prices were escalating at such a rate that even though we did a minor adjustment here, that if they were buying a container of chicken, I'm just trying to reference, for $5,000, this order, by the next order it was $7,000 or $8,000. And so the little that we were trying to do here was of no consequence ultimately when viewed against the dramatic increases in shipping costs and the cost of supplies globally. So in relation to food, we have come up with, I think, a basic suggestion, and that is to ask our people to grow more. We have said that you must grow more of what you eat and eat more of what you grow. We know it is not probably popular to tell people. We have become very accustomed to the processed food and the fast food. We go into the supermarket, we pick up whatever off the shelf. But we have said, listen, if we start inculcating our people the practice of growing, even a little backyard garden, that you can go in your backyard, you can get something from there to cook, it lowers your food bill. And we have provided tremendous incentives to our local farmers to grow more on the island of Nevis. I mentioned Indian Castle Fruit Orchard. You can now get fruits of various varieties for drinks, for consumption in various ways. I have mentioned in the past our agro-processors and what they're doing. I've mentioned the fact that we made shade houses available to farmers here, which are now under production. In fact, if you have an opportunity, Mr. Dixon, the Honorable Eric Evelyn, our new Minister of Agriculture, did a video recently where he toured various of the farm agricultural installations on the island. And I believe it's worthwhile looking at because you see the tremendous amount of production that is happening in Nevis now as a direct result of government policy, incentivizing, providing free water, providing free fertilizer, providing assistance to farmers, including, as I said, free shade houses, free land preparation. We even fence lands for free for farmers in order to get involved. And they have responded. And so what we are asking them to do in return, you see how many time I use that word free? We are saying that if you get free this, free that, and free the other, give the consumer a break on the cost. You can't get free water, free fencing wire, free plowing, free land preparation, free fertilizer. And in some cases, we sent people from agriculture to help them, free labor. And you still want to charge people the full price for a pound of watermelon or a pound of cabbage or a pound of cucumber. We're saying give the people a break. And I want on that score to celebrate our fishermen because during the pandemic, we gave out free fish pot wire to our fishermen to help them. And the fishers responded by lowering the price of fish per pound. And I thought that was a very good gesture. So I'm encouraging our people to do likewise. So food crisis, we're trying to avoid that by growing more food locally. We think it's better quality. We think it's cheaper. And everybody, Mr. Dixon, you or I, you don't even need to have land. If you could buy some flower pots, you could grow something, right? So the reality is that we want that culture of growing something, going out in the backyard and being able to pick something. I think that's important. So we're trying to encourage that as well. We think that is ultimately the only long-term solution to the cost of living crisis on food, where that happens, that we have to be able to incentivize more local production of food. The debt status of the NIA, I do not have the statistics with me this morning, but I did do a full report, Mr. Dixon, to the last sitting of the Nevis Island Assembly, which was, I believe, 3 weeks ago, when I reported on the state of the economy locally, where we were 6 months, because I did a report up until June, and including the debt. I can tell you that we are servicing our debt adequately, that we are not in arrears in relation to any of our debt payments. And so at this point, the NIA is current with its obligations in relation to debt. The overall figure, these press conferences are important. I know people listen and they want accurate information. I wouldn't want to misstate, but I think the overall figure remains where it was when I reported in the last budget in February, which is roughly $500 or so million. As I said, the precise number. When I say that, let me hasten to say that that is the total debt. That is the NIA debt and all of the statutory corporations, Nevis Housing and Land Development Corporation, NEVLEC, NTA, Nevis, NASPA, Nevis, ANC Ports Authority. So that cumulative debt is somewhere in that region. As I said, I did do a full report to the Parliament, but I can certainly get you the precise number after this press conference is over. But I think the good part about that is that we are servicing the debt adequately, and I think we have a strategy in place now post-COVID where we'll try to reduce the debt. That was always our objective, but of course, during COVID, that became of less importance to reduce debt. What became important to us during COVID was saving lives and ensuring that our people were able to maintain some dignity in terms of how they lived. And to this day, I continue to pride ourselves, Mr. Dixon, on the fact that during the COVID pandemic, not a single public servant was laid off. And every public servant was paid in time, on time and in full, every payday. And that for me was a remarkable achievement given that all of our major engines such as tourism were shut down during that time. So we continue to look at that, but I will have PS to get you the debt numbers when we finish with this. Any other questions for me?
Good morning, Premier.
Good morning.
Solomon Charles Kelly from The Observer also. Two requests.
Forgive me, your name is what?
Solomon Charles Kelly.
Solomon Charles Kelly.
Yeah. I have two requests. Can you give a progress report on the updates currently being made to the Van Samri Airport And can you do the same for the geothermal drilling project, and any prospective dates of milestones, if you have any? Thank you.
Both very important projects. On the airport project, the Honorable Alexis Jeffers has been assisting as the lead on that project, and he and I would have met. Would have been just not last week, but yes, last week Sunday, if I recall, with the representative of the main financier on the project. We have confirmed that the financier will make available somewhere in the order of $28 million for this project, and that money will be used on the actual construction works at the airport. What I mean by that is the runway, the strengthening, the lengthening, the new lighting, the new parking, and a hangar facility that is to be done there. We are currently, so that is their responsibility. So remember, this is a public-private partnership that we're trying to do. The responsibility of the NIA now has to do with acquiring the lands in the area to make this happen. We have been in quite intense negotiations with landowners in the area. Some are being reasonable, some we feel are not being as reasonable, but that is to be expected. So we're having that discussion with landowners, and it will be our responsibility then to acquire all the necessary lands, and that is what we're now trying to finalize. So once we're done with that, we have at the same time contracted a firm called Perez Consulting. They are the ones doing the actual design work on the airport, and they're already at work. And whilst they're doing the design, they're also updating the environmental impact assessment. Once we have those things in place, Mr. Charles Kelly, we intend to go then to the public in terms of consultations, meaning that we want to update the public as to where we are in a formal way and have the public understand the way it is we intend to go. Now, at current projections, we expect that the runway, when finished, will be in the region of 5,500 to 5,600 feet. That runway will allow us to take most of the private jets that are currently flying. It will also allow us to take the direct flights from Miami International Airport that are now going into Anguilla, into Dominica, and into the British Virgin Islands. And so we are hopeful that they use a smaller aircraft, I think an Embraer aircraft that usually will hold about 104 passengers or thereabouts. That is the aircraft that we are told should be able to land here. And so we anticipate, when we look at our sister Anguilla and hear that they now have 2 flights a day from Miami for the upcoming season, it tells us what is possible. And so that is why we are looking to make this investment and to partner in this way with a private person in what we're calling a public-private partnership. We have indicated that we will have the usual town hall sessions where we would want to have the experts there and the government to answer questions from the public and to satisfy any concerns that the public may have. And so we anticipate having those fairly soon. It didn't make sense for us to try to do anything during Culturama, so we're waiting until the festivities are over, and then we intend to have those consultations. So that's on the airport. On the geothermal project, we went through the first round of bidding for purposes of the drilling operations. The drilling operations, of course, had to do with the production wells. I am advised that there were some issues that arose there during that process, and so the CDB and the technical team at NEVLEC, they have gone back to the drawing board. I'm told that they now have decided that they will approach some specifically identified companies that have the necessary ability, wherewithal, and experience to do this project, and that we anticipate, yes, Daniel, I think is in August, the end of August. I believe that was the last date I was given, that we should have the update as to where we are in terms of a driller. The anticipation now, having lost some time this year, is that by the end of this year we should have the drillers in place to do the drilling, to commence the drilling. And as I said, this drilling is the production well drilling. Just to advise that there are some additional funds that would need to be spent because we need to improve the infrastructure. I'm told, for example, that these drill rigs, you can't put them on any road. They require, because of the weight and the complexity, that we need to have dedicated roadways, for example, for them to traverse. And so we need to put roads into the area, which is in the Hamilton area. We anticipate is going to lead to quite a bit of work, particularly for the youths in that area. And so we are hopeful that we'll have all of that in place by the end of this year. So that's where we are at this point. The project is still a project that is alive. It is still a project that is viable, still a project that has the full support of the NIA and the federal government, and one that we hope will ultimately bring tremendous fruits to the people of Nevis and the wider federation as well. Any other questions for me?
Good morning, Premier.
Good morning.
Glenn Bart, SK Newsline. Two questions. First, in the post-pandemic period, has there been any significant shift in the way visitors perceive Nevis and are demanding what they should receive as a high-end destination? And has that impacted the way the Nevis Island Administration, Tourism Authority, or Tourism Department markets the island? As an offshoot of that, what existing constraints do you face in getting additional visitors, because numbers translate into more expenditure? So we want to find out, are there any constraints that you particularly face in increasing the numbers to the island? Second question is, in your administration's attempt to boost economic activity, I know the NIA has been pursuing a diversification program, but what would you consider to be your current 3 top assets, or your 3 top positive attributes of the island at this moment that creates that foundation upon which you can build out the economy and grow the economy?
Okay, Mr. Bart, thank you very much. Post-pandemic shift in terms of the demands of our visitors, we really haven't seen much in terms of a shift. Obviously, we have seen a heightened demand. We think that, as we are experiencing throughout the region, that there appear to have been some bottled up demand, and people couldn't travel during the pandemic, so now people are traveling. In fact, the Four Seasons has indicated to us that some of the business that they're getting this year was actually business that had been booked during the pandemic, meaning that people should have come in 2020 and 2021. But because the hotel was closed, the island was closed, etc., they couldn't. So they're honoring some of those commitments now. And that might explain why we're going so deep into August in terms of the hotel having activity. But it's a good sign, and we're hopeful that that will continue. I can't say that we've seen any shift in terms of what people are asking for. The reports seem to be quite consistent, that people come here for a particular type of holiday and that people enjoy what this island has to offer. In fact, the profile of many of our guests is that of a returning visitor, meaning that they come year after year. They come here to this island, particularly those who frequent the plantation inns. So the Montpeliers of the world, the Hermitage, they tend to get families that keep coming, Golden Rocks, etc. So we're not seeing a huge shift in that regard. You say, what are the existing constraints? We mentioned the airport. That's a big constraint. You're right. We need visitors. I wouldn't just say we need more visitors. We need more of the types of visitors that we are catering to. We need more visitors that have money to spend and come to spend that money with us. But how you get them here is a problem. I don't think there's any secret that because American Airlines has had a virtual monopoly on air travel from the U.S. into the Federation, that the prices have skyrocketed. And so I'm delighted to hear that JetBlue is now coming, that Caribbean Airlines has now started into St. Kitts, and we feel what we're doing here in Nevis will be to augment, to add to what is available. So imagine, if you will, that you can have now the larger jets going into St. Kitts from Miami and New York as usual, but the smaller jets coming from Miami into Nevis, American Airlines similarly. I think that would be a good thing for the overall development of the tourism industry and to give our people greater choice in terms of travel. And also, we hope, with greater choice comes a low cost. One of our biggest constraints and problems here is the cost of air travel. Our destinations are already expensive, meaning the hotels in Nevis are costly. But when you add the cost of air travel, and you just need, don't take my word for it, you just need to go on any travel site or just go on Google, right? You put in, for example, US to Dubai, and as far away as that is, you find that the price is maybe half of what you will pay if you're going from St. Kitts Nevis to the US. In fact, I have marveled at the fact that if you go from Miami to Trinidad, all of us know Caribbean geography, we know that Trinidad is way down south from us. Miami is north. So to go from Miami to Trinidad, you're going to pass St. Kitts Nevis on your way down, but it's cheaper than if you come to St. Kitts. So a lot of it doesn't seem to make sense because you're saying in terms of your cost of fuel, the same plane size that you're using, the same plane that's full. So why is it that it's so much cheaper to go to Trinidad? Some say it's because of the extra demand, larger population, but I feel a lot of it has to do with competition as well. And when an airline recognizes that they're the only game in town, then they charge what they want. So I think JetBlue coming in and others coming in, it should be helpful, and that is why we want to build out. What we're also thinking in terms of constraint is just the resources. We now have to be very strategic with our marketing because we don't have the vast marketing budget that other countries have. And so we have to be very strategic as to how we spend and where we spend. One of the things that we are going to be doing shortly is we're going to boost the digital capacity at the Nevis Tourism Authority, where we're going to have persons charged specifically with that task of ensuring our digital content is updated and refreshed on a daily basis across all platforms, social platforms. I think that's where people are now getting most of the information on their mobile phone, so we need to be able to reach them, target them, and ensure that they have up-to-date information as to what's happening. And it isn't necessarily a new idea. It's happening in other places. I was in Anguilla recently, and you can go on an app there and you see every night what's happening in Anguilla, where it's happening, you know, which restaurants, which bars, who's performing, and you can therefore make your decisions, right? You can book in advance, or at least you know, do you want a quiet dinner somewhere? Do you want some place with entertainment? If you do so, what are your choices, etc.? Those are things that we want now to have somebody dedicated at the NTA to provide those. And so we hope to build out our marketing network. We're currently in conversation with a group out of the UK. They've offered us a very elaborate plan and a very costly plan in terms of what they would require. So we're looking to see whether we can do some of that. I don't think we can do all, but whether we can do some of that, because we think the UK market has not borne as much fruit as it can for us. I'm gathering that Virgin Atlantic is interested in coming into St. Kitts. If that happens, and that would mean that we have a second significant carrier out of the UK coming in here as well. And thus far, I'm told the numbers for British Airways have been quite encouraging into RLB. So all the indicators are good. I think we just have to continue to build out. And I continue to stress to our people that tourism is everybody's business. All of us sitting in this room have a role to play in the tourism sector. How we respond to people, how we deal with people, how we welcome people, our posture, those youngsters who engage in antisocial behavior, all of that is unhelpful. So we need to collectively see this as an important industry that we need to protect. Three top assets, attributes to create greater economic advancement here on the island. I think our people, because no country progresses without having their people on board, and I think our efforts to train and retrain and retool and continually encourage our people to be responsible and take advantage of the opportunities that are available. I think that will be critical. Everybody who comes in to invest wants to know about your workforce, who you have, the quality of what you have. I think that it is very useful that we've stabilized a lot of our basic infrastructure here on the island. So we have an excellent electricity grid and electricity supply. We've invested in that over the years. We are having some problems with water now, as I've indicated, but that we hope we will be addressing very shortly. In fact, I did not say earlier, but I should say that we expect Mr. Hogue to conclude his report within a month, and that will allow us to know where we can drill. And so we're hoping to move to that very quickly. So we've stabilized that. Our road network we've built out here, and we continue to build out that network. So transportation, electricity, water, those are things, basic infrastructure that people look to as well, and we have been investing in those over the years. I know some people have said, oh, you're all building road, you're all doing this, you're all doing that. It's all been part of preparing the island, so that when an investor comes and looks, that they can see that the island can handle what they want to do. If, for example, tomorrow a large resort wants to come, they're going to ask the question, can you provide enough water? We want to build a golf course. Do you have water that we can water our golf course? Those are questions that investors are going to ask. And you have to put yourself in a position where you can compete and you can answer those questions in the best way possible. So I see our people as the backbone. I see building out our physical infrastructure. And I think you asked for 3 attributes that we have. I really feel that the last one I would suggest is the approach and the attitude of the government to investment, creating an environment that people feel welcomed. We have here in Nevis invested during the pandemic in revamping our whole portal at the Nevis Investment Promotion Agency. We have new leadership there. We have a whole new technology that we've deployed there where you can sit now, Mr. Bart, in wherever, Switzerland, and you want to invest, you go onto that portal and you can even find out which professionals are available to you, architects, lawyers, surveyors, etc. You can even do a calculator where you can calculate and get a rough costing. If you buy a piece of land, how much will that cost in terms of legal fees and all of those things. And we have, what we're trying to develop is what we call a concierge service. So that once that investor calls the Nevis Investment Promotion Agency, they can walk them through the necessary departments and all that. So we're really trying to cut through a lot of the red tape. That's a big complaint that people have. They said that we are not easy to do business. They want to come in, but it's so difficult because you have to take a paper from here, go to planning, take it from there, go to this place, take it from there, go down, buy some stamps, go here. So we're trying to see how we can iron out a lot of that and make it easier for people to do business. So I've identified 3 areas for your people: training, them being available because they're the backbone of anything we do, our basic infrastructure, building that out, and then the governmental response has been to try and make Nevis more investor friendly and more open for business, as we say. So that's what we've been trying to do and investing in doing that accordingly. Any other questions for me?
Good morning, Premier Brantley.
Good morning.
I have 3 questions for you this morning.
Your name?
Donella Thompson, Vaughan Radio, sorry.
Okay.
What is the status of the Windham Hotel and Nisbet Plantation in St. James, the Old Manor in Gingerland, and the proposed hotel at Indian Castle? Can an update be given on the broiler facility project since the groundbreaking ceremony? And Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Terence Drew, mentioned in a recent interview that the federal government will embark on an initiative to make shares available for citizens in 3 companies associated with the government, namely the cable, the future desalination plant, and the energy plant. Does the NIA have plans to collaborate with the federal government on this initiative? And does the NIA have similar plans of its own? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Thompson. A young reporter, you ask some difficult questions, you know. So thank you for coming and thank you for your questions. Updates on these hotels. The Windham Hotel, the last report we got from them is something saying that they were still interested. We don't quite not sure what that means. But they, of course, had come, they had a plan, and they say they were derailed by the pandemic. So at this point, I don't really have an update in relation to them. Nisbet Plantation is a sore point for us. In fact, we are considering what options might be available to the government. Nisbet was under contract to be sold to some new developers. It appears that there has been some dispute between the buyer and seller, which has now ended up in court. And in the meantime, Nisbet has gone into liquidation. And so the owners of Nisbet have moved the court to put the company into liquidation. We are very concerned because Nisbet, of course, is a strategic asset here on the island of Nevis. At its heyday, it employed dozens of people and was one of our, frankly, one of our more luxurious and storied hotel properties here on the island. And so it is heartbreaking what has happened over there. And so the government is looking to see what options the government might have in relation to that particular property. Indian Castle property, the last report again we had on that is that the developer says now that he has the necessary resources. I said says now because he has said that in the past before, and we're hopeful that this time he has what it takes to get this over the line. And so the government continues to work with that developer. We have not had any announcements because we have said to him we've had sufficient announcements on this. Where we want now is a groundbreaking and an actual hotel development that's happening there. So Wyndham, Nisbet, Indian Castle, the Old Manor Hotel, unfortunately, is privately held, and that has languished for many, many years. I think it has been there now probably for over 2 decades. And we do not know what's happening with that, whether they've been able to find a buyer. But the government has no particular interest in terms of financial or ownership interest in the Old Manor, so I'm not sure what's happening there. The broiler industry, I believe that the minister has been a little preoccupied with Culturama, because he is also the Minister for Culture, but he anticipates to have a follow-up town hall meeting with those interested in that sector to update them. And so we think that that will happen after the Culturama festivities are over. We have, as you said, the plant equipment is here. We have already had the groundbreaking for the construction of the processing facility, and that will be next to the current abattoir facility in Prospect. And the idea, as I've said, the model is to have the various farmers produce the chickens and then take them to the processing facility. That way we can control quality and ensure that you, the consumer, get chicken that is prepared in a particular way and chicken that is the best possible quality. That is the objective. We have been collaborating with St. Kitts because over there they're also trying to develop the broiler industry. In fact, the Taiwanese government has partnered with St. Kitts, the federal government, to create a hatchery. And a hatchery, I'm told, is the official language for basically the business that where the chickens, they get the eggs and the chickens are laid, and those chickens are then hatched, and then those chickens then go to the farmers. Without the hatchery, you have no broiler industry, because clearly you have to have the birds. So the hatchery is important. We also, I'm told, have a private investor, Nevis, who wants to do a hatchery here. And so we anticipate that this will be a significant push on this going into the end of this year. The Prime Minister, I too heard his announcement about these various companies in which he'll be offering shares. And all I would say to the people of Nevis, if there are shares available and you want to invest, that you invest in them as well. Because I anticipate that once these shares are made available, they'll be made available to the general public, people in here or anywhere else. I should tell you that we obviously have the federal government has an interest in the cable. We don't on Nevis. Here in Nevis, it's private. It was called the cable, but now I think is owned by Digicel. And desal, I wasn't so sure what the Prime Minister meant by that, because the only desal I'm aware of at the moment is 2 pilot projects that are being funded by the United Arab Emirates. One in St. Kitts, one in Nevis. I don't know if the federal government has plans for a wider desalination effort. If they do, it is commendable, because that, I think, is the ultimate answer for our water woes. You look out our windows here, we're surrounded by ocean. And if you could find a way to bring that salt water, take that salt out of it and make it potable, then I think that solves the problem. The problem that we've had with desal is the cost of electricity. And once electricity prices remain high, it means that the cost of desalination will be too high for the consumer, because we then have to pass on those costs to the consumer. But that, to me, would be the logical solution, and we hope that if we can get that geothermal project done, that power costs are reduced dramatically as a result, then we'll be in a position to have desal. And I think desal will be the solution, not more drilling, not going into our aquifers, and that will allow our aquifers an opportunity to recover. Our hotel sector, for example, uses a lot of water, and most of the hotels in the region are along the coast. So if you can have desal plants along the coast to feed your hotels, then that, I think, is a perfect solution. Energy, in St. Kitts, of course, you have Skelec, and in Nevis you have Nevlec. Now, I'm advised when Nevlec was originally established, that was the thinking, that over time you'll be able to sell shares. In fact, that model isn't new, because if you look, for example, on the Eastern Caribbean Stock Exchange, you will see companies like Lucilec, which is a St. Lucia energy company. Those are all sold on the stock exchange. So those are publicly traded companies. So I anticipate in fullness of time, Nevlec will also get to that stage. But our objective was to stabilize Nevlec, make sure that it's profitable, and make sure that we invest in a stable grid for the island of Nevis. I think once geothermal comes on board and all that, we will then have a company that is really valuable and could be attractive to investors. We'll have to look at it then. But short answer to your question is that we do not have any current plans as the NIA to have any companies in Nevis where shares would be offered. Any other questions for me?
Just a follow-up on the 420 stuff. What is the NIA's long-term play to take advantage of the new marijuana laws that were passed federally recently? We've heard talk of 420 tourism. What's the plan for the NIA?
Mr. Dixon, you asked a good question, and the short answer is, I don't know that we have a plan per se. What I mean by that is, we have been talking for some time now about marijuana industry. And the industry for us would cover a broad range of activities. I have been an advocate in the federal cabinet when I was there, under the team unity government, and subsequently in the federal parliament, to say that we need to do more and we need to move faster on it. If you listen to the last parliamentary sessions at the federal level, at the national parliament, when we debated the designated smoking areas and the Rastafarian certain rights for them, etc. If you had heard my presentation there, I again sounded the appeal for us to move farther, faster, because I think we're being left behind. What we keep doing is tinkering. We keep playing with the edges of this issue, because we are still, I think, afraid to simply legalize marijuana. And as a result of that, we keep making piecemeal adjustments. So you talk about a 420 tourism, for example, 420 friendly tourism. I'm not so sure that that is even going to be possible in St. Kitts Nevis with the legislative framework that we have. Because what we tried to do was, in time for the music festival, to get areas designated for those who wanted to have these events, for people who wanted to smoke. And I remarked then and I remark now that it's just for those who want to smoke marijuana. Those who want to smoke cigarette, those who want to smoke cigars, those who want to smoke B-Bush. There was an area designated for them, right? Smokers. And we had a debate because Rastaman don't like cigarette. So the debate was whether or not the Rastaman wanted to be in an area where he's smoking his ganja and somebody is smoking cigarettes. So all of these were issues. But as we've seen in other countries, a very clear situation. Marijuana is legal, or it's legal in certain areas. You go to the shops in Amsterdam, for example, you know that you're in this district, and you can go and you can buy. You can buy it in various forms, including edibles and all that you can buy. That's what they've done. Here it seems what we've created is a situation where if you're having an event, you can apply for a license to have a section as a smoking section. And that will allow you to have people in that section smoking. That, to my mind, is not quite the same as tourists just flowing off a ship or staying at the hotel and decide they want marijuana and are able to access it easily. So I'm saying we still have work to do. And my view is that we need to probably just take the decision, difficult as it may be, that this is where we're going to go. Canada has done it. Uruguay has done it. And I think that we ultimately should do it as well. And then focus our resources on educating our people about the challenges, the harm, the benefits, whatever, maybe of marijuana, and attracting persons to come in to invest in that sector. Nevis would like very much. We have people in Nevis who are very interested in it. But as I said, the current constraints make it difficult for us to come up with a comprehensive plan for marijuana here. It's not like when we talk about poultry production, because there are no restrictions on that. There's just you sit and work out your plan and implement. Here now you have to play this minefield of what is allowed and what is not allowed. Right? The Rastafarian rights, for example, that only deal with Rasta. You say because Rasta was discriminated against, they now have the ability by law to do certain things. Right? But you and I can't just walk up and down town with, 10 pounds of weed in a backpack and decide you're going to go in the corner and the 4th Street, or you're going to go here in town and start to sell. Roll up a blunt and say $10 and selling. You can't have up no sign down on Penny's Beach saying, high grade, come and get your high grade. That is not permissible. So, we are, in my view, talking about wanting to do things, but we need to take the bold action with the legislation. And I'm not saying it's an easy thing. Government has legitimate concerns. We did when we were there, and this government too has concerns. Your banking sector, how you respond, etc. All of those are legitimate concerns. But somebody needs to just take the decision and implement. Otherwise, what we're going to find is that we're going to get left behind. Antigua has already moved, St. Vincent has moved, Jamaica has moved, and we're going to get left behind. And as you know, in certain states in the U.S., Colorado and those states, they have moved in a significant way. So we just need to do what we need to do and get ourselves ready and take advantage of this marijuana industry and try to build it out. I'm even concerned, Mr. Dixon, because here we talk about scientific and medicinal. But let's face it, a lot of people use marijuana for relaxation, for enjoyment, right? Many people burn a spliff because it makes them feel good. I don't know if it has any therapeutic value to them in terms of aiding their health in any way. But I'm sure that while as much you hear about people with glaucoma and whatever, and that's true, there are other people who smoke for the sake of smoking, make them feel good, right? So, are you going to leave those people out of the loop? You're going to say to a man who wants to burn a spliff just because you give him a good meditation, that you, unfortunately, are outside the law. And the only people in the law are those who are burning a spliff for their religious purposes, or if they have medicinal value because a doctor prescribed it for them, or if they're part of some scientific evaluation. So the tourist who comes off the boat and who just wants to, just like he want to drink a beer, he want to drink rum punch, he want to go down Sunshine and drink Killer Bees, he want to smoke. And the question is, can he smoke? Can he get his edibles? Can he get all of that freely? And once you're going to force people to still run and hide to try and make that available, you're going to have a difficulty. So, as I said, as a country, we need to take a decision. Maybe we need to do more public consultation, find out what persons like yourself say. Right? We know in the country we have a bit of a divide. A lot of the older folks, those my age and over, are saying, boy, these young people with this marijuana thing, that kind of thing, churches and thing. But you need to hear from them and see where we are and then take the decision. But certainly when we were in government, I got the sense that the government was afraid. And this government has come now, and while they have tinkered, I do get the sense that they too are afraid. Right? Because America like to say, do as we say, not as we do. Because in America, in nearly every state now you could get marijuana. But they still say that it is federally a crime, federally a dangerous drug, and so you have that problem. So we hope that we can develop a plan, Mr. Dixon, but so far our efforts have been thwarted by the fact that there's no clear pathway as to how we can get to a marijuana industry. Any other questions for me?
Just to follow up on Mr. Dixon's question, what is the source of the resistance to actually changing the laws? What are the concerns, and what are the next steps you think in assuaging them and surmounting them?
The sources, I think, a number of sources. We have our people. We shouldn't delude ourselves into thinking that everybody in our country is in favor of marijuana and marijuana use. Right? A lot of our people still see it as a drug, a dangerous drug. Yeah, I'm sure some of our grandmothers are going to tell us you're going to drive you crazy. If you smoke it, you're going to be a vagabond, right? That's how we grew up. That's what we were told growing up. So there's still that resistance at a social level. But you also have bigger issues than that, in my view. You have issues such as the legal framework. Can I, for example, as a ganja farmer, go in and open an account at National Bank? And they say, what is your source of funds? Ganja. That's what I do. I grow weed, I'm selling it, that's what I do. I'm a young person. What is your source of income? I have what? Mark treats. I do edibles, right? I do brownie. I do all kind of things. That's what I do. Can you open a bank account? Or is the bank going to say, no, 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 no? Because when our correspondent bank in America looks and see that we have an account here for ganja farmer, then that now creates a problem and we might lose our correspondent banking relationship. So this kind of behavior is deemed to be risky, and that now affects. And even in the US, it's a problem because marijuana is still illegal federally. The states have said that you could have marijuana. So let's say the state of California, for example. But federally, it's still a problem. A lot of the banking sector in the US is federal. So for example, if you want to wire money, you're using the federal wire system. So if you want to send money now from Colorado to New York, because your child going to NYU in New York, or you're a ganja farmer, that's what you're doing. How do you wire that ganja money, so to speak? So even though you might have it, and it's being done in the state, so that's where they say a lot of that business is cash business. Because the people can't bank it as they would be accustomed to banking. Now, we all know that without banking, you're limited in terms of what you can do with your business. How do you pay for supplies? How do you buy what you need to buy for your farm, etc.? All of these are important questions. And so you ask, what is the reason for resistance? I think we have the societal norms that are being challenged, but you also have these other concerns that are legitimate concerns, and they have to be met. But the way I think we address it is we must go to our public. We must have a series of discussions with the public. We must sensitize the public because there are a lot of people out there as well who are selling the myth that marijuana use doesn't have any kind of bad health effects. And I believe that that is not true. That same way the Bible says, drink a little wine for the sake of your stomach. If I remember my Sunday school class well, we know if you drink too much wine, you have a problem. If you eat too much food, you have a problem too. Right? Likewise, I'm pretty sure that if you engage in marijuana consumption at too young an age, or you do too much of it, or the potency of it, our bodies are all made up differently. I tell people all the time, I know man smoking since for 40 years and they don't appear to have any kind of ill effects on them. Another man come along and boom, maybe the first bit he get is ultra high grade and he can't handle it. So, you know, we need to, because sometimes when I hear the discussion, people make marijuana seem like it's so harmless. Can't do nothing to you. There are also people with what they call underlying conditions. So if you are borderline in terms of some psychological or mental issues that you may have, using any kind of stimulant, any kind of drug, any kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Putting something into your body that can have an impact on you, whether it's alcohol, marijuana, or whatever else, it can trigger something that might be there already. So all of these are considerations, but we need to have that discussion. You know, they say marijuana is good for things like glaucoma, but how? I mean, when I'm saying how do you use it? Do you drink the tea? Do you get some kind of, cream that you rub on your eyes? Do you smoke it? What's the best way to ingest it? Is it tablets? Is it smoke? All of these are legitimate questions. But I feel that the only way we can answer them is to have some robust public consultation with people who know what they're talking about. I think that's the best way. Anything else further for me?
Yes, Premier Brantley, just one question. The Public Service Commission, PSC, that deals with matters pertaining to civil servants, is it operational on Nevis?
Your question tells me that you're very well informed, you know. That we have not had a meeting of the Public Service Commission for some months on Nevis. It is not that the commission is not functional. It's just that there have been some changes to the commission on the Sinkits end. Just that people understand, the Public Service Commission in Nevis, the chair of the Public Service Commission in Sinkits is the same. And all that we do in Nevis is we add 2 members from Nevis to the commission. So the chair was changed from who was there to a new chair. And I believe the lawyer to the commission has also been changed. So that newly constituted chair has not yet convened a meeting in Nevis. There was a gap. But I believe that we have a meeting tomorrow, either today or tomorrow. Tomorrow, I think, here in Nevis, under that new arrangement. So the PSC is functional. It's just that there was a gap as a result of changes made to the composition of it. On the Sinkits end, the 2 members on Nevis, who are Mr. Elmo Lywood and Mr. Pink Wallace, that Pink is not his real name, but Mr. Wallace, that those 2 individuals are still there on the Public Service Commission for Nevis. So they should meet tomorrow to try now to deal with some backlog that we have, and we hope to get that cleared away. I believe they meet again middle of August or thereabouts here in Nevis. So, anything further for me?
Well, Bentley, I have a concern really, and it has to do both for Sinkits and for Nevis as well. In the terms of, I'm trying to get a perspective, a long-term perspective, next 20, 40 years from now, in terms of our education system. Is there a long-term plan as to where we want our country to be competitively to other countries? We are small islands, yes, but human resources are human resources. And we have to compete against the very largest of countries. So I'm trying to get an idea as, are there any concrete steps being taken to shape our education policies and programs to sort of anticipate what is going to happen years down the road?
I think the short answer is yes. And there's been various plans published. I think the OECS has put out education reform. We have engaged in that. I'm not sure if you're aware, Mr. Bart, but in the schools now, some people are still challenged by it, but in the Nevis schools now, we're not doing things like we used to. So, for example, the high schools used to be set up, you had 1A1, 1A2, 1A3, etc. That grading system, I think, is no longer there. They now have the classrooms, they're not emphasizing anymore where your grade is. You used to do an entrance exam to get to high school, and the students who did better were placed into certain grades. Now they put in everybody together. And so I think in the classrooms now you have, the classes have names now, you know, industry or whatever they may be called, ingenuity, rather than the 1A1 and 1A2s, etc., that they had before. So they tried to change that and de-emphasize, I think, the competitiveness about grades and create a different kind of learning environment. We have said very clearly about our efforts in relation to vocational education, that we see that that is the way to go, and that our people need to be better prepared. We've already built a facility at Gingerland for that. We're supposed to build a second facility at Charlestown. The facility at Gingerland is not yet fully functional because we sent people away to train, and we hope those people will be coming back. I believe the end of this year, they should be in position to take up the teaching roles at the technical and vocational, TVET as we're calling it, facility there. So the country has emphasized that we will need to do, de-emphasize the academics perhaps, emphasize a bit more the vocational training, getting people certified. That's a big problem as they talk about competition, because our Caribbean colleagues now have freedom of movement. They're showing up here whether they're from Jamaica, Trinidad, St. Lucia, and they're showing up with a certification saying that they're certified in plumbing, in electrical, whatever. Our people, on the other hand, know how to do it, but aren't certified because they learn it on the job. So those are efforts that are already on the ground and ongoing. Now, I share your frustration that we don't have a sort of 20, 30, 50-year plan, because we don't. I don't think anywhere in the region does. And that is something that perhaps we need to look at to see how we can implement a vision that goes beyond the election cycle and that, as you say, is 20 or 30 years. But in education specifically, I think quite a bit of work is already being done. And here, for example, in Nevis, we had some innovations. We've introduced Mandarin in the schools in Nevis, which was an innovative step that we took because we saw Mandarin as a global language now spoken by a significant part of the globe, particularly those, of course, in China and in Taiwan. We are currently pursuing the introduction of an African language in the schools. We're having some debate as to what that should be, but more than likely it's going to be Swahili, and we're trying to get the necessary resources to offer that on the same line as we're doing with the Mandarin. And we also want to start to offer coding in our schools. In fact, we have a proposal from Estonia, and we are sending a delegation to Estonia shortly to cement that relationship. So the idea really is that technology, languages, all of those are part and parcel of the retooling and retraining of our people and ensuring that our young people come and have the necessary skill sets. So that's what we are doing. But I agree with you that having a plan written down, saying this is a 20 or 30-year plan, would be a good thing. We just don't have that yet. Anything further for me? Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your questions and your comments. And I will look forward certainly to seeing you next month at our next press conference. Thank you. God bless you.